Panic is rife. Fear of a fresh financial crisis has prompted share losses of 5 trillion euros in just 8 days. The sudden stock market turbulence has shocked even experts.
Of course, the global economic situation wasn't healthy. Nations have amassed excessive debts, and this situation and the anxiety about whether the debts could be repaid in Europe, as well as the US and in Japan, has expressed itself on the stock markets.
Economics professor Max Otter correctly predicted the global financial crisis in 2008. He's now analyzing the fallout. He says investors have lost faith in politicians, and one thing leads to another. For the first time in history, a credit ratings agency has doubted the ability of the U.S. to solve its debt problems and downgraded the country's credit rating. The Eurozone is also facing a debt crisis. 2 weeks ago, a 100 billion euro aid package was agreed upon, but just days later, the president of the EU Commission issued a statement saying that wouldn't be enough.
The statement was definitely a mistake. It gave the impression that the agreements reached at the European summit were insufficient and new negotiations were necessary. If you do that during an ongoing crisis, you must know what you're doing. It definitely exacerbated the problem.
As a result, the crisis worsened. Many fear that Spain and even Italy could be the next countries to fail.
I can't imagine we'd be able to rescue Spain and Italy. Spain might just be possible. Spain, Ireland, Portugal, and Greece together are equivalent to 75% of German economic performance. If we add Italy, that's another big load on top. The burden would be too great. We'd have to face completely new decisions. I don't want to speculate what they'd be like.
Italy is finding it increasingly difficult to borrow money on financial markets. In some instances, it would have to pay interest rates of almost 6.5%. Greece, Ireland, and Portugal accepted rescue funds when their interest rates reached 7%. But there's no money left to help Italy. The European Central Bank has begun purchasing Italian state bonds to relieve some of the pressure. But the situation is still a burden on the euro.
The euro hasn't failed, but it was badly designed from the start. It shouldn't have been introduced in its present form. Many economists, including myself, said that. Many countries should never have joined the eurozone and should leave it again right away. Then we might have a stronger euro.
It's not an option, and so it's not worth discussing. It's not in the interest of countries that are hard hit, like Greece, to leave the Eurozone. Excluding them would not be legally possible. So we shouldn't even start the discussion.
German economics minister and vice-chancellor Philipp Rösler has returned early from his summer holidays. He's intent on halting further speculation, and he's got a plan to convince investors that the Eurozone countries will be able to repay their debts.
Every member state of the Eurozone must add a debt limitation clause to its national constitution. Each national economy should also undergo a test to establish its competitive ability. Thirdly, we need a new EU Stability Council to oversee the imposition of automatic sanctions on any economy that fails this test, and further instruments to help the economies in question to take the steps to become more competitive as quickly as possible.
It's unlikely Rösler's plan will be realized anytime soon. It would have to be agreed on by all 27 EU member states, and that could take years.
The EU debt summit, the debt compromise in the US, all are compromises that allow things to carry on as usual. The countries get further into debt, make a few half-hearted attempts at reform, and hope they'll get through it somehow. That's how we've been behaving in recent years, but there has to be a change in policy. The markets are saying very clearly that we can't go on like this. We need to make serious reforms.
Meanwhile, the turbulence on the markets continues. This time, according to rumor, France's creditworthiness is in danger. The rumor is false, but the panic is real. The stock market turbulence is perhaps the last warning signal to politicians before the next major crash.